Do you wish you could redo your YouTube studio setup? Do you feel like you're recording in either a cave or being interrogated by the CIA? Well, then you are in luck, because I'm going to review a video by Think Media where they go over the concept of the 3-point lighting setup. Now, I've heard of this concept before, but I've never really implemented it. So come with me as we review this video and I implement what he teaches, and then let's see if it makes a really big difference. So let's get to it.
The only difference between this shot right here and this shot is the lighting. So today I'm going to show you how to set up your key light, your fill light, and your backlight to get amazing video quality. We're going to be using a simple, low-budget 3-point lighting kit, so let's get into it.
Okay, I love that he said low budget, because this is the part that scares everybody. If we have to spend a ton of money on gear and equipment, that is a barrier to entry and nobody really wants to do it. Now, if you're going to take on YouTube as a strategy for lead generation, you are going to need some basic equipment, but I don't believe that it has to be super expensive equipment. And in fact, birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, you can always ask for presents instead of asking for jewelry and ties. Maybe you ask for a microphone or a light instead.
Lighting is the most important aspect of getting really good video quality, and they use 3-point lighting in movies, TV shows, music videos. So today I'm going to show you how to set up each light and what it does. So let's go ahead and start with the key light.
Okay, I'm a little embarrassed that he said lighting was the most important point, because I've never really spent much time thinking about lighting. I have lights, I turn them on, I point them in my general direction, but that's kind of the extent of what I've done in the past.
So this is the key light, and the key light really is the main light source. And so if you were to use one light, you would use a key light. And so we're using the Neewer NL660, and all this gear is going to be linked down below in the description.
So that's interesting that he has the key light off to the side. And he said if you were only going to use one light, you would use a key light. I would have put it directly in front of me. In fact, I have a ring light on a stand back there. And if I were only using one light, I would have my camera in the middle of that ring light and it would be directly in front of me. But he's saying to have it off to one side, and you'll see why.
So the key light is on the right side of Heather's face, and this is the main light. And really it doesn't matter if it's on the left side or the right side. The fill light is going to be on the opposite side of the key light. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like with just the key light on. So the backlight and the fill light are off, and this is just the key light lighting Heather's right side of her face.
So see, isn't that interesting that he has it on the side rather than directly in front? And you can still see her very well, but it's obvious that the light is coming from one side, because one side of her face is pretty well lit and the other side of her face is in a little bit more shadow, but it doesn't look bad at all. It looks interesting, right? I think that the background looks super, super dark right here, but with the 3-point setup, that's going to change. So don't panic. We're getting there.
This is our fill light, and we're using another Neewer light. And if I turn this off, you can see that the shadows are pretty dark on Heather's face. And so when I turn this light back on, it adds a nice fill into her left side. And this just makes the shadows not as dark. And I also wanted to share with you that it's okay to have shadows on your subject. A lot of people think for YouTube videos or interviews, they just want to flood as much light as they can. But shadows are actually great because that's what shapes your subject.
And I absolutely fell guilty of this. In all of my previous videos, I would tend to have one light here and one light here. In fact, that's what I have right now. And I'm facing a window with the blinds open. So open window, light here, light here. All of this light is going directly onto my face. And this was my strategy. I figured I needed a lot of light in order to be well seen, in order for this to be well lit. Well, as I'm learning, this is kind of a novice approach. Yes, you can see me, but there's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot of shading. There's not a lot of contour. And so there's not a lot of interest. I mean, let's face it, the most interesting thing going on in this set are the lights that I have behind that desk and behind my little chair back there. And those, I will link to all of this stuff that I have in a link down below. those are just little LED lights for color. They add no light to the room whatsoever. They just add a little bit of color that you can put behind stuff. And it's kind of like, it's like under cabinet lighting for your office.
A little power tip about your fill light is that it needs to obviously be not as bright as your key. And so if you have a light that doesn't dim, maybe it is a softbox with a bulb, what you can do is just take your light and move it back. And so that's going to dim your light if you can move your light source farther away from the subject.
Did anyone else just have a light bulb moment, or was it just me? My lights luckily are dimmable, but if you've got those umbrella lights that are not dimmable, hello, all you gotta do is move them back farther. It's like one of those, wow, I could have had a V8 moments.
So we've covered the key light and we just covered the fill light, and this is the backlight. It's the third light in this setup. So the main purpose of this backlight is to create separation between the subject and the background. So a lot of YouTubers or people who are getting into video, they don't think to add this light, and what happens is that the subject can often just fall and mix into the background, and this helps really add a pop to your subject. So if we turn this light on and off, you can see that it really adds a lot to the shot. It makes her pop and it makes her stand out from the background, which is exactly what this light is used for.
Now, something that I also think is very interesting is you'll notice that there are no overhead lights on in that kitchen. The canned lights up in the ceiling are not on. And so the room is fairly dark because the kitchen is far away from those windows that are in the living room. And he's got the light, the backlight there, along with that little light that's on the stove turned on, but that's it. That's the only light in the room. And that is apparently done intentionally. They want it dark back there so that you, being super well lit, are standing out from the backdrop.
I'm going to share a secret lighting technique that they actually use on movies and TV shows, and this is going to make you stand out on YouTube. So the secret hack that they use in movies is actually called motivated lighting. So you can see in the background we have a lamp, and if we were to just turn that off, this light looks really unnatural because we don't really know where this light source is coming from. But we purposely put that lamp in the background to motivate this backlight so it looks like this light is going onto Heather because of the lamp.
Okay, so I like that idea of having a very dim table lamp or a floor lamp or something in the background that is part of the scenery. It's part of the shot so that when you've got all this light on you, it's not like you're sitting in a dark room and suddenly there's all this light and we can't really see where it's coming from. So I do like that. All right, this is something that I've been meaning to do for a very long time and just haven't gotten around to it. So come with me and let's reorganize my office. So to refresh your memory, this is what it looked like before. And now we look like this. So what do you think? Do you think that it made a big difference? It's not a huge difference. It's kind of a subtle difference, but I'm very pleased with the way that it turned out overall. So let's talk about the changes that I made. First and foremost, I am now standing up instead of sitting. I think that this makes a big difference. I used to record all of my videos standing up at the very beginning, and then I kind of transitioned to sitting. But here's what I find. When you're sitting, you have less energy. It's harder to talk with your hands. It's harder to make gestures. When you're sitting down, for some reason, you seem just a little bit more low energy and more reserved. And that's not what we want in our videos. So I decided to stand back up, and already it feels 10 times better. So now let's talk about the lighting. I have my key light right next to me. My wall is right there, so it can only be an arm's length away because that's all the room that I have to work with. So I have the intensity turned down just a little bit so that it's not super, super bright right in my face. And as far as the color of the bulbs, if you go with straight white, it looks a little cold, but if I turn it all the way amber, I look orange. And let's face it, ain't nobody ever gonna think that I have a tan. So I like to do warmer white light, but not all the way amber because it makes me look orange. Now we've got the fill light. The fill light is probably 6 feet away. So because it's farther away from me, it automatically puts out a little bit less light, which is just fine because remember, we wanted to have one side have a little bit more light and one side have a little bit less light. Then finally, I have the backlight. I have a ring light back there that is shining on that desk lamp. The desk lamp puts out very, very little light. It's like a 30-watt light bulb. It's nothing fancy. But the ring light shining on the desk lamp makes it look like that's where the light source is coming from. That was a cool little trick. And the reason why it's really great to have lights behind you is because it separates you from your backdrop. Now, when I first started making YouTube videos, I fully admit that I was guilty of standing right up against the wall. Why do we all do that? Like, we find a blank wall in our house and then we stand right up against it. It looks like we're in a lineup or we're having a mugshot taken. It's not a flattering look, but yet we all tend to do that at the very beginning. So if you have taken anything away from this video today, I hope you will try getting away from your background. If you can have about 4 feet of space or more between you and whatever is back there, it just looks better in the video. We've got a little bit of depth, we've got a little bit of space, and depending on the type of lens that you have on your camera, you might even be able to do that blurry background effect that's so popular too. With a darker wall color, it would make this whole room even darker, and then when you turn on all these lights, it's more dramatic. If your room is white, or beige or light gray, I highly suggest getting some room darkening curtains if you want to get a more dramatic effect in your videos. But can I just use a green screen? I have a studio apartment. I don't have a dedicated office space. I don't have all this room. I hear you asking these questions every single week in my Facebook group. So watch this video next where we talk all about the green screen and what I think about using a green screen for your YouTube videos. See you over there.